obviously I watch my comings and goings on the internet. I'm interested in that. It is the cum stain on the sheet of the artistic experience. Everybody wants to look at it. They want to see how visible it is. They wonder if other people are noticing that it's there. So in that way, I do check it out.
It's not easy to mix humour with drama or satire with genuine expression. Go too far in a comedy and you risk never being taken seriously. Take yourself too seriously and you're Leonard Cohen or Nick Cave. Great at music, shit at parties. Father John Misty, or Josh Tillman, has proven over 6 studio albums that his best skill is blending sarcastic humour with genuine sentimentality. He's not quite mocking religious conventions, though he's not a fan of them, and yet the father honorific gives a certain cultish impression. You picture some charismatic enigma who, every now and again, is given to dropping pseudo-intellectual insights or drabs of really old poetry. Look at Josh's lyrics and you might call him a comedian or satirist in the vein of Kurt Vonnegut. But then listen to songs like Fun Times in Babylon or Chateau Lobby No. 4, and you'll likely be swept away by the lushness of the old Hollywood strings, the complexity of the melodies, the richness of the father's voice.
I would like to abuse my love. Smoke.
Misty's first 2 albums, Fear Fun and I Love You Honey Bear, are undoubtedly his best. Chloe in the Next 20th Century was also fun, if a little busy, but the first 2 albums are where the lyrics are at their cleverest, the melodies at their richest and most varied, and the half-sincere shtick at its sharpest.
Oh, I just love the kind of woman who can walk over a man. I mean like a goddamn marching band.
I Love You Honey Bear was an ode to Josh Tillman's wife, whom he had then just married. Most of the record is spent exploring his history with this woman, his muse, how they met, how she helped him change his immature everything sucks worldview, how they learned to live together and successfully navigate the banal realities of domestic life. These vignettes are presented through endlessly singable melodies and indulgent climaxes, and these elements counterbalance the witty barbs and sarcastic observations, making sure that they don't overpower or define the record. Pure Comedy, the follow-up to I Love You Honey Bear, dispenses mostly with intimacy and romance, choosing to focus instead on the common issues of our time. Josh is sufficiently educated to ponder on the state of modern society, and his gallows humour mostly lands, but the commentary itself is pretty rudimentary. Songs like Total Entertainment Forever don't really say anything that hasn't already been said about the time in which we live. That we're all glued to our phones, we're slaves to dopamine, we've forgotten how to empathise with one another. This is all heading somewhere bad and fast. It's Soma from Brave New World, the in-home telly screens from Fahrenheit 457, Philip K. Dick's Penfield mood organ. It's probably most closely referencing the Summer's Dat from David Foster Wallace's Infinite Jest, which presents a point in the album's favour, which is that Misty gets the point across much more concisely. My point here being that Father John Misty's best work focuses on himself and not the hopelessness of the world at large. We learn more about the hilarious absurdity of life by looking within, and not by joining a chorus of ineffectual complaints. In Misty's new album then, we get the sense that his persona has achieved some kind of delusional transcendence. This is the father at his most profound, introspective, inscrutable, even if not at his funniest. Mahashmashana isn't just another critique about everything that's wrong with the world. It isn't the work of a man who feels sad, hopeless, out of ideas. It feels like a collection of parables or the unhinged writings of a cult leader who has embraced the inevitability of oblivion. Take the title track. Mahashmashana is based on a Hindu concept which can be translated to the Great Cremation Ground. The symbolism here is obvious. These are stirring apocalyptic visions, and they're given a great deal of credibility when coupled with Misty's rich timbre and the huge orchestration which is typical of his work. You don't get the sense that he's right about the end of the world per se, more that he totally believes it, that he's received some great revelation. Listening to some of the album's best tracks, Mahashmashana, Screamland and Being You, I'm reminded of the maximalism of Hillsong-style worship music. The songs are slow and contemplative, as worship songs tend to be. There's room for those ad-libs that happen when the spirit is said to grab you. The outro of Mahashmashana has Misty repeating "Yes it is" in the same trance-like way that Hillsong worship leaders repeat phrases like "Praise the Lord" or "It is finished."
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
This to me is a neat kind of funhouse parallel. It gives more weight to Misty's mythos than more muted folk-style songs might. Screamland is an interesting one. Much has been made of the chorus and its explosive wall of sound, and I won't relitigate what you've already heard. I like the song, although when I heard it, I was left with a niggling sense that this was a song Josh might have written for someone else, which is something that he regularly does. Its pop-like structure and use of abrasive digital textures makes it an ideal fit for an artist like Post Malone or maybe Gaga, maybe even Billie Eilish. That's not to say that it was bad for Josh to do, just that it seems a little out of place on the record. Josh Tillman and the Accidental Dose contains literal references to Josh's battles with anxiety, as well as his use of acid as a long-term remedy. I obviously don't wish to downplay anxiety, but it's interesting to see the Misty character relaying the experience of his real-life counterpart. Once again, I see the charismatic prophet, this time offering up a cautionary tale of when he was out wandering the desert, the trial that precipitated his blessed epiphany. He can joke about it now that he's been through it. I guess Time Makes Fools of Us All is another highlight, and it's probably the most experimental track on the album. It reminds me of Arcade Fire's Reflector in the best way. The groovy disco beat acts as a steady guide for the many instruments and stings that come and go from the mix. You'll hear strings, brass, a Hammond organ, wired-up guitars, even a sax solo. The melody follows a predictable structure, each verse resolving itself with the titular sentiment. Thematically, the song is tinged with the same finality as the rest of the album. It's not quite regret we're getting from Misty, but it certainly is resignation. Musically speaking, Mahashmashana doesn't quite achieve the same heights or variety of Misty's best work. There's a sense throughout the record that the music is serving the lyrics, rather than them both sharing equal footing. She Cleans Up reminds me of You Can Do It Without Me from Fear Fun, and even more like a certain Genesis song. But on the whole, She Cleans Up is a paint-by-numbers blues rock track with a range of about 3 notes. Cool groove, great lyrics, it just won't ever be among the greatest hits, and that's okay. Taken as a whole, I wonder if the album might have worked better as a spoken word project. There's a lot Misty wants to say, and the imagery is a lot denser than usual. The subject matter is deep and comprehensive, and the music has suffered a little for it. In The Accidental Dose, there's an odd mismatch between Misty's relaxed vocals and the violin stings that suddenly burst in and out.
A publicist and a celibate started talking politics, and by a small degree.
The stings are arresting, but why? It feels like they're there only to renew your attention, to prevent boredom or fatigue. The production across the album is good, and there's not much to say beyond that. Drew Erickson does a great job at realising Josh's arrangements. When things are grand, they're grand. When the piece is more folky and simple, the keys are warm and the electric guitars are pinched. There are some interesting flourishes here and there. One I like in particular happens in the title track. The strings continue to play the song's central progression over and over. The song builds slightly more with each go-around until it seems to just collapse under its own weight. The song ends without ceremony. Whimper, not bang. Josh has said that Mahashmashana might be his last Father John Misty album. I hope that's not the case, but it is fitting. Thematically, Misty believes that the end is nigh, and he's resigned to see in a new world, one in which none of us exists. In a more literal sense, Josh is exploring the life and death of his alter ego of the last 10 years. Either way, where can we really go from here? Despite my criticisms, I do believe Mahashmashana is a great album. At its best moments, it cements Josh's legacy as a triple threat. Few others can be a humorist, singer and songwriter all at once. I doubt I'll go back to it as often as I do I Love You Honey Bear and Fear Fun, but that's okay. If the time of the great cremation does come, I know it'll be there to comfort me.
Time